leadership. Kennedy testified that the CDC had been lying to the American public during the pandemic. He said that mRNA vaccines were dangerous and, in a shocking moment, appeared to confirm his belief that there is no such thing as a safe and effective vaccine.
I mean, we were lied to about everything. We were lied to about natural immunity. We were lied to about, we were told again and again the vaccines would prevent transmission, they'd prevent infection. It wasn't true. They knew it from the start.
Are you aware that another one of these new members, Dr. Levy, wrote that, quote, evidence is mounting and indisputable that mRNA vaccines cause serious harm, including death, especially among young people? Yes or no? Are you aware that he said that?
I wasn't aware he said it, but I think I agree with it.
You agree with it? It's not true. It wasn't true when he said it. It is not true when you said it.
Let me ask you, when were you lying, sir? When you told this committee that you were not anti-vax, or when you told Americans that there's no safe and effective vaccine?
Both things are true.
Now, we should note health agencies and health experts around the world agree that vaccines are safe and effective at preventing the spread of disease and that they have saved countless lives over decades. Democrats came into this hearing livid, demanding Kennedy resign or be fired. And multiple Republicans on the committee, including 2 physicians, expressed their frustrations as well about Kennedy's actions on vaccines.
Bienvenidos. Welcome. Today is the first day in which we're going to be covering Latin American news for an English audience. This is something that I'm new to, so we're going to try to ease into it and try to just get better as we go. I'm going to I'll put the VOD up maybe on YouTube. I'll just use the Twitch VOD for now. And that way, at least there's like some kind of place you can go to if you miss these things. I'm going to be trying to do 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Central. Maybe pushing it to 7 sometimes. I'll mostly be trying to cover our closest neighbors and anyone that we interact with heavily or have been in the news recently. So Mexico, Puerto Rico, Venezuela, right, is one that's big right now. And I think that will kind of put spotlight on countries as is necessary in relation to what's happening here in the United States, and particularly, and this is really important, how American imperialism is affecting people in Latin America. And the reason I wanted to highlight that is because we do a really good job here in the United States to talk about how the American federal government affects the working class. But we don't spend enough time talking about is how American imperialism affects the global South. One of the things that is incredibly terrifying about JFK, or I keep saying JFK, about RFK Jr., is that this man really likes to tell people not to get vaccinated. In fact, he went to, I believe it was Ghana. Oh no, it was Samoa. So we're going to talk about this a little bit because Samoa is not in Latin America, but it is being affected by American imperialism in an incredibly interesting way. Hold on a second. I'm going to go to I'm going to go to a different browser so I can access my university, use my university credentials to get this paper here. That's not what I want to do. I want to do this. Paste. Whoa. What do you mean? Okay, there we go. Why can't I find it? Where is it? There it is. Oh, I didn't want to download the full issue. My bad. I should have read that closely. I've been doing this all day today, just downloading the full Lancet. Oh, no. See, this is what I'm saying. You guys can see this. Pepe. Everyone's mad at Pepe Aguilar. They're mad at the Aguilar family in Mexico, which is fair, I think, after what they said. Well, that's not what I'm looking for either. I'm looking for specifically this paper, Missiles Epidemic paper. Huh. I guess it's probably not the best source anyway. But anyway, my point is, RFK Jr. went to Samoa and he advocated against the measles vaccine. And it ended up causing this like epidemic among people who live in Samoa because they were not vaccinating their kids because they were listening to this guy. I think that he targeted religious communities. I'm not entirely sure. And is that it? Did I find it? Did I find it? Did I find something? Did I find something? Might have found something cool. Well, I say cool. I like health data. Like that kind of thing. Okay. It's really crazy that he's not being named in this. There's this really good video that this guy, Dr. Dave, did, and he talks about it. Is it this?
Undoubtedly, Bobby's biggest obsession over the course of his grifting career has been vaccines. He continues to spread widely debunked claims that vaccines cause autism, they aren't tested properly, and they're packed with brain-zapping toxins like mercury and aluminum. He tried to play it cool with his whole... Now it's time to cover the darkest pit of RFK's pseudoscience. We've shredded his vaccine lies.
Perfect. This is it. This is what I wanted to talk about.
Conspiracies. Live
Okay.
Health has left a trail.
Here we go. So yes, so this is probably this talking about the same thing here. Where'd it go? Where'd I put it? Oh, this isn't it. But I don't know where I put it. Oh no. Here we go. What do you mean it's unavailable? Now it's unavailable? No, I think I just have to reload everything, don't I? What the hell is happening? It won't let me access the page again. That's so bizarre. It's like was co-published in elsewhere, so. All right. This is so fucked up. The Peter Twinklage.
And I'm approaching this as a doctor, not as a senator. I am concerned about children's health, seniors' health, all of our health. And I applaud you for joining the president in a call for radical transparency. Thank you for that. I said yesterday, I believe it, that President Trump deserves a Nobel Prize for Operation Warp Speed. If he had been President Obama, he would have gotten it. But because of Operation Warp Speed, forcing the federal government to come to a vaccine development within 10 months when others said it couldn't be done, we saved millions of lives globally, trillions of dollars, we reopened economies, an incredible accomplishment. Mr. Secretary, do you agree with me that the president deserves a Nobel Prize for Operation Warp Speed?
Yeah, absolutely, Senator. That
So
was phenomenal.
let me ask you, but you just told Senator Bennett that the COVID vaccine killed more people than COVID. That was a statement.
I did not say that.
Okay, then let me ask, because you also were leading
Senator,
attorney-
I just want to make clear, I
Okay,
did not say that.
We'll check the record. That's a question of fact. You also said that you were also as lead
That was a good
attorney
response.
for the children's.
That was a good response. That puts a smile on my face for sure. So you can kind of see how like the United States affects people, even just with like rhetoric. And so I kind of figured it was really important to just offer a voice that hopefully makes American people who care about geopolitics a little bit more interested, a little bit more informed in what's happening just to our south. I think something that a lot of Americans don't, unfortunately, don't get to learn is how much of an influence the United States has had on Latin America and Latin Americans' like perspectives. A lot of the interesting political theorists that come out of Latin America see themselves as like a part of a tradition of liberation that the United States is also a part of. It's very interesting how they can hold this opinion of the United States as kind of an example, like a good role model that kind of lost its way. I wanted to cover a couple interesting things that I thought were incredibly interesting in regards to what we're doing here in the United States, and what we, I guess, in a lot of ways, should be doing, right? You hear a lot of people talk about the concept of intersectionality, which is the idea that the different kinds of marginalized groups you belong to intersect with others, and at those intersections is where you can build the solidarity required to make real change. And I think there's truth to that, for sure. And I think that the left in the United States has had a really hard time reaching out to these different kinds of intersectional groups. So I'm in DSA. There's some other Hispanic people there, not that many in general. And I get the feeling from like other people of color that we all seem to be a little bit more aware of imperialism in the United States, like role in a lot of the stuff that's happening in the world. This program, this concept, oh man, it is in a lot of ways incredible to me. We haven't moved, that this is something that we don't even talk about. In fact, I imagine a large amount of men would think this is incredibly silly because they've never had a period before. I've never had a fucking period before, but like the other thing is that I've also like there's women in my life that I care about and that I listen to, and they describe to me what having a period is like, and it doesn't sound particularly pleasant. In fact, it's very weird that our society just kind of ignores it and kind of hopes it goes away, rather than structuring anything around people having periods. You know, in really poor developing countries, women have to miss school unexcused during their periods. And that's incredible. You see the pragmatism in the way that these like people kind of operate, right? That she's like, okay, cool, they're getting the days off, but are they missing out on their education? And making space for that, right, is what actually would help. Les Lily Teles. See if I can play it here. This was not what I meant to do at all. My bad, everybody. Okay, so hold on a second. Let me find a good video of this real quick. Here we go.
The president of Mexico is furious. She's calling Mexican Senator Lily
That's the angriest picture they could find of her.
Reyes a traitor for coming on Fox Noticias with me a few days ago and saying this. Listen.
The help from the United States to fight the cartels in Mexico is absolutely welcome, and that is how the majority of Mexicans feel. The only ones who don't like that President Trump is sending help and trying to support Mexicans against the cartels are the narco politicians. That includes President Sheinbaum.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum.
It's important, first of all, to recognize that Claudia Sheinbaum has a astronomical approval rating. It's regularly above 80%. Her party is a grassroots organization that, it literally just went to these groups of marginalized people, asked them what they needed help with accomplishing, and formulated plans to do so. it's really difficult, right? Because this is an incredibly popular government. To say as a opposition, as the leader, as a member of the opposition, something so dramatic, of course it's going to lead to some kind of reaction. And so you get God dang it. No. What's happening? This is the worst. Okay. Okay, fine. Whatever. Oh, this is different, isn't it?
Sheinbaum responding, saying, quote, "It's not a minor issue that a senator gave an interview to a foreign media outlet calling for intervention."
It's
Here
not.
to discuss is that Mexican Senator Lily Tellez. Senator Tellez, welcome to Fox Noticias. Yes, I'm just going to get right to it. Is Mexico a narco state?
Yes, it is. And we all Mexicans know about it. And Mexicans are afraid of the alliance between the Mexican government and the cartels.
I just want to say that this is like an incredibly racist lie perpetuated by the Americans and by the supporters of the Americans. These are former members, typically, of the former ruling party that was a ruling party for the majority of Mexico's history.
That have infested our nation.
Can you explain this alliance between the president, her party, the Morena party, and the cartels?
Yes, the party has financed, has given, the cartels have given so much money to these politicians, narco politicians of Morena, to get into office, to get the power. So they protect. The Mexican government protects the cartels. That is why President Sheinbaum doesn't want the strong American leadership to help Mexico defeat the cartels. And also Sheinbaum doesn't want the rest of the world to know what is happening here in Mexico. We are on the steps to be the next Venezuela. She is aligned with Venezuela's dictator, with Cuba, and we are losing our country. They have destroyed our Republican institutions, the democratic state, and we must, I think we all Mexicans want and welcome the support of the United States to assist Mexican people against the cartels.
You have to really understand how fucking crazy that is. I mean, you have people online joking that President Xi should invade the United States and liberate Americans. But this is not a joke. She legitimately is saying this incredibly unpopular opinion, by the way. So unpopular that the citizenry of Mexico demanded that she be removed from office. that her immunity be stripped away, and Claudia Sheinbaum had to come to her defense. Claudia Sheinbaum had to defend this woman who was accusing her of being connected to the cartels in some fashion from the plurality of voters who voted for people like Sheinbaum. It's also really important to recognize that this lady, Teles, oh my God, she goes by fucking Lily? Are you fucking kidding me? In Mexico and in Latin America, we talk a lot about like Latin Americans who want to be white people and they name their kids white people names. No fucking Latin Americans named Lily. Es Liliana. ¿Verdad? My name is not fucking Michael or some shit. My name is Ulises. Right? Like, I have pride in my Spanish rooted name. She should have pride in her Spanish rooted name if she's proud to be Latino. She's not, though. Right? Ultimately, she's a self-hating person. Ultimately, she hates the identity that she was given when she was born, rather than embracing it and learning about it and finding the beauty in it and solidarity within that identity that you were gifted. You betray it. You betray it, and you have, right? She was elected through Morena. She was a member of Morena, and then she left and came and she turned coat. She just started, she was like, I'm not Morena anymore. I'm going to join the PAN. She is absolutely a Weasley little liar. And it's incredibly, I honestly feel like any Mexican seeing this is going to be enraged. I honestly can't. I mean, just think about it. Like, if you're like a patriotic American, just think about it. If like fucking Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez went on like fucking Al Jazeera, right? AOC went on Al Jazeera and was like, the Iranian Revolution needs to carry on in the United States. We need a American caliphate. We need to embrace Islam as the one true faith. Like that, it would be the equivalent of her saying that, like, "Hey, Iran, come and invade us, please. Come and help us out. Come and help us out with some of these drug problems we have." The thing is, right? The thing is that factually, the people who are responsible for the longevity of these criminal organizations, the people that are responsible, like, it's the United States federal government, right? Right? We know that. We know that, in the famously recently published book, There's No Such Thing as a Cartel, beautifully details that the word cartel is like, applying it to these organizations makes no sense. First of all, a cartel is like what the pizza companies have, like the large pizza companies. They have like unspoken agreements to not compete in certain areas or whatever, right? It's like the same thing with like cell phone coverage, internet coverage, all sorts of stuff. There's like all sorts of, those are actual cartels. You could say that like the cellular companies function as a cartel if like, because their coverage is like, it's like you have some places, some carriers have better coverage in some places than others. And so like that is closer to what being a cartel is than what these guys are. Right, like the idea of a cartel would just be that all of the drug suppliers agree on the same price. That's what that would mean. That's what it means. That's what a cartel is. And they don't do that as far as anyone. I mean, no, they don't do that, right? The thing is that they function a lot more like special operations units that were trained to facilitate drug trade in order to acquire off the record monies, right? It's so out of the American Special Forces playbook. These like groups of like highly trained individuals at Fort Liberty are the guys that, or literally the guys who founded Los Zetas were trained at what is now called Fort Liberty. We have something called the Mall of the Americas, in which some of the beheading videos that you've seen online don't come from like some cartel or something that you probably thought. They come from the School of the Americas, where they're taught how to torture populations, how to terrorize populations by abducting people, by torturing them through murder. And it's no surprise that these groups, like the Green Berets, come out of things like the Phoenix program during Vietnam. Like the United States has invested a massive amount of money, manpower, and time into the development of these strategies for, essentially destabilizing governments, destabilizing either legitimate or illegitimate regimes, right? Stable regimes, essentially. And they have gotten really, really good at it. And I don't know what kind of kerfuffle this was, but when they trained these Mexican special forces, they went rogue. And rather than the United States take responsibility in this case, right? Because, like, really, it's like, oh, hey, Mexican government, that's our bad, right? They have been accusing the Mexican government of facilitating it for a really long time. They've accused, and like, it kind of comes back to like the misnomer of the word government, right? Like, what does government mean? Everybody has a completely different, well, a lot of people have one idea of what government means, and it is such an inclusive and vague term that it doesn't function, right? Like, in this case, when we talk about the government, there's a federal government, there's state governments, and there's local governments. And while corruption does exist at the local level, corruption at the federal level is much, much harder to pull off because you're so much more visible. And it's also the party leadership who's like running on anti-corruption and stuff. There is absolutely local corruption, blackmailing, mostly, right? Because it's basically like, if you don't play ball, then I'll kill your whole family, and then I'll find someone who will play ball. It's not really like, oh, I want money. It's, I will die. And it's important to note that kind of strategy, once again, was taught to these people, these groups of violent criminals, by the Americans. This wasn't something that they just started doing out of nowhere. This was literally taught to them because that's what the Americans do, right? That's what they did in Afghanistan. That's what they did in Iraq. That's what they did in Kuwait. That's what they did in Vietnam. That's what they're doing all over the place right now. You know, there's like, I don't know what they've been doing in the Northern Horn of Africa, but they've been there lately, the last, 6-8 years, and something's going on there for sure, right? With probably Somalia, I don't know. There's like evidence to suggest that they've been in the in Gaza and the West Bank recently, and that's not even including, right, the mercenaries that people like Israel, like countries like Israel, or like organizations like Israel, I should say, terrorist organizations like the Zionist entity of Israel, can hire these American-trained, American-born, American citizen mercenaries to commit basically war crimes, right? And then there's like this audacity here. This audacity on this woman who is Mexican. Like, dude, have some level of dignity, have some level of self-respect. I just can't even begin to think, to consider what kind of wretched existence this person must have. Like, she must not be able to sleep, frankly. I wouldn't be able to sleep being this kind of traitor to my country.
That have us all in this crisis with the traffic in fentanyl and migrants.
So her response to this, and I know this because her spokesperson came on our show in response to your interview, and they say, well, we just turned over 26 cartel members. We're working, we're sharing intelligence. What are they not doing? And why is she so resistant? She sort of speaks out of two sides of her mouth. We're working with you, Trump, and then she's chastising you for saying, we need more help from the United States to.
There's a difference. And they don't need, Mexico doesn't need help. But the help that Mexico needs is for you to stop selling guns to these guys. That's what she has repeatedly said. All of the guns that these cartel guys have originated here. Guns aren't legal like that in Mexico. You can't go like. Last night I was looking at what kind of AK platforms that I could purchase. I'm trying to I just want to get a gun to shoot at the range. We have a Glock for home defense, but like I just want a gun to shoot at the range. I think it'd be fun. I like shooting games. I thought maybe it'd be a fun thing to have. And there's no way I'm gonna get like an AR platform. That's like way too symbolic of the right wing to me. So I was thinking, the AK is like this traditionally like revolutionary silhouette. So I looked up AK platforms, and they're, as far as guns are, they're not the most expensive guns, and you can get them no problem. And it's very easy to convert them to fully automatic. So now, if I'm a criminal in another country that does not have access to these kinds of weapons, I could just come here. And that's what happens. They just get guns from here. Like, there's a reason why the gun show loophole is so dangerous. It's not because of like hobbyists. It's not because of hobbyists. I think that's one of the things that that these guys get really focused on. They think that it's about them. It's not about you guys. It's not about the guys who like guns, who like to collect guns, who like to talk about guns. Those aren't the guys that the government or that like people who advocate for gun control or whatever are worried about. Who they're worried about are these guys who come in to these gun shows and buy a bunch of guns. I think they do straw purchasing, right? So they don't look suspicious. They buy a couple guns here, a couple guns there, and they probably stock up throughout like a long period of time in order to not, garner suspicion, which is also, by the way, what Timothy McVeigh did to make money. So these guys go to Mexico after that, because it's pretty easy to smuggle in out of Mexico. The border guards are incredibly easy to bribe. And frankly, I mean, like, I don't know how much they check. The stories about like the Fort Bragg, Fort Liberty guys, transferring drugs. It's like just transferring them in old washing machines, just filling them with cocaine or whatever. And so I imagine it's pretty easy for these guys to get the guns down there, and that's where they sell them. That's who they sell them to. They sell them to these dudes. And what's interesting is that like they're not even necessarily buying just this like high-powered shit. There's reports that they have access to, what is it called, man? I want to get it right. I want to get the model right, because it's a real thing. They have AGLs, essentially, automatic grenade launchers, but I don't know. Wait, what? What the fuck? Why is there just like a product page for a fucking... This is a 50 caliber machine gun. It's a 40 caliber machine gun. It's crazy. Okay, so it's like a handheld, I think, is the one that I was thinking of, but it seems like it's probably something more like the MK19 automatic grenade launcher. Like they have those that they have purchased for probably from companies like Heckler and Koch, right? And like, what is Mexico supposed to do about American European conglomerates? They have no legal authority to do anything about, right? Like they would have to like build a case, submit it to the country that these guys operate in, right? Because like, for example, Heckler and Koch is like a European country. It's like German or something. So it would be like having to submit that to German courts and be like, hey, something's got to happen here, man. Like, we can't be having people buying automatic grenade launchers and then just using them to start narco trafficking networks. Like, it's just like not okay. We should just not let that happen, right? It seems pretty reasonable request from the Mexican president.
Because she really doesn't want the help of the United States. She is lying to Mexican people, telling.
It's important to note that nobody wants the quote-unquote help from the United States because of what I just said. I don't think anybody in Mexico really thinks the United States is there to help anybody besides themselves. Mexicans, I think, are pretty savvy to that. This kind of attitude and trying to like present Mexicans as like groveling little serfs that are just waiting for their like beautiful liberator, the United States, to come in and rescue them from a horrible, tyrannical U.S. government that is in league with the narco trafficking networks. Like, that is... I have to tell you, like, I don't really know what psychology says about this phenomenon that we are encountering a lot in politics, because this happens a lot in American politics, obviously. But, like, these people deny reality so much. Like, so much. Like, this is just, like, none of this she's saying is within the realm of, like, physical reality. It's completely unprovable. There's people who live in that bubble. Absolutely, that's true. But if you talk to a regular Mexican person, they don't like her, right? She got like overwhelming amount of people signing a petition that Claudia Sheinbaum had to comment on. I'm just can't stand that lady. This is pretty interesting, right? Because especially considering what she was just talking about, we are in Mexico. They have been extraditing criminals to the United States, and are they trying? I believe they're trying to extradite criminals to European countries where the trafficking took place in. I don't know what happened to me lately, but lately, like, I sit on my junk a lot, and like that's never been a problem for me. I don't know what the deal is. These are the kind of things that like are amazing. Where Mexicans are seeing what they call the fourth transformation, right? They're seeing a change, a massive change in their government and their society, and the excitement is palatable. You can see things like this focus on families, this focus on children, on education, on women, on the indigenous. They care about this at like a it seems as though a national level, like they've reached a national consciousness in which they have a plan to advance, and they're executing it actively, and we're seeing the results as they go. They're presenting these milestones, and they're saying this is how far we're getting to them. These are the ones we've been able to achieve. And it's honestly, like, I honestly don't know how continue to, like, how people can continue to this is where my family is from. Nosotros somos de Coahuila. Somos norteños. I'm not sure if we have Coahuilano. I'm not sure if that's what we are called. They just ignored Coahuila. I don't understand why people ignore Coahuila. My home city, Monclova, is one of the richest cities in Mexico. We develop massive amounts of steel. Our baseball team is called the Steelers in Spanish, Los Acederos. Like, we're like, I don't understand why we don't get any kind of recognition. Torreon is, I've never been to.
Let's start counting. 1, 2, 3.
How do I turn off the auto dub? Surface area for people who couldn't intuit that. I'm not familiar with that first word, but it seems like it's helping 1 million people who previously did not have access to healthcare. This is supposed to be like a regional hub for my state, for my home state. Look at that man. Oh, and Chihuahua. Durango. We have close friends from Durango here in the US. That's amazing. It's a really important. A women's oncology hospital, dude. I want to go work here. I want to go there. I want to work there. Something that I didn't know that I learned today from... Oh man, I'm gonna forget the name of the podcast. I just started listening today, but it's like a Mexican podcast. It's Mexican people, a Mexican man and an American man living in Mexico City, reporting on Mexican news in English. So kind of like this, except it's a podcast and they're real journalists rather than a biomedical research student. And they talked about how healthcare is actually a guaranteed right in the Mexican Constitution. And that's what Morena is focusing on as far as the argument for bringing universal healthcare to fruition at some point. They're going to continue to they're just doing like all of this stuff. I guess it should be no surprise that like somebody like Claudia Sheinbaum understands all of the things that you have to that you do about all the different areas and different parts of life that affect human health outcomes. I mean, she's an environmental scientist. And one of, I mean, I'm not particularly interested in this, but just because of like the courses that I happen to take, I have a lot of like environmental health and stuff. And essentially, she seems to be really focused on, and Morena or whoever is in charge of the healthcare seems to be really focused on this like holistic approach. Because yeah, like housing is major. Housing is a major thing that affects people's health, which is here, right? That they're also like making highly accessible loans. They're doing all this incredible work to wow, they're helping with they're helping people get out of their like bad loans. The trains, the hotels, more archaeological sites that people can visit. You know, it's like the exact opposite feeling that I get when I think about thinking about this country. It's like I think about this country and I'm like, oh man, I need to move somewhere where things maybe will be fine or manageable. And then there's like what's happening in Mexico, and it's like exciting. Like I want to move there. I want to go and help make these hospitals the best hospitals in the world. You know what I mean? Like this is so fucking cool. Look at all this stuff they're doing, dude. How can you look at this as anybody with a brain, frankly, and think, "Oh no, like that's not good." But this is why, right? Like, and it's like a long-running joke. It's really not a joke. It's like a very accurate observation amongst like the left, right? Is that we joke that like if a country tries to democratically like take control of its natural resources, the United States will immediately find a way to destabilize it. And that seems to be what it's doing. That seems to be what's happening. Mexico's trying to take like control, sovereignty over its natural resources, its people, its land, and the United States is taking great offense to this. And I think like this should really for people who are in like to self-improvement or like psychology or whatever, but also like myself are on the left, it's important to think about Frantz Fanon here and his idea that liberalism, fascism, whatever you want to call it, society has basically taken on an abusive version of the family model, or that there's some kind of equivalence here in which the working class relates to the capitalist class as a victim relates to their abuser. And what I mean by that is that the abuser, or in this case the ruling class, does a lot of the behaviors that we would consider abusive in an intimate partner relationship, right? So things like lying to you when you know that that's not true, when you know the reality, right? Does that sound familiar? Does that remind you of anything? You know, not necessarily just the federal government, right? But like the media that covers for the federal government, that's all they do. That's what their job is to gaslight us, the American citizenry. And then we have these other things, right? When Mexico doesn't do what the United States wants it to do, it reacts aggressively with violence, like an abuser. I have to go see what's wrong with my dog. Oh my god, dude, it's just mowers. I have had no appetite all day. But I know I'm gonna need to eat at some point. It's almost 4 o'clock. Surely my appetite will kick in eventually, right? I have a bowl of chili that I was gonna eat for lunch, and my hunger cues never kicked in today. But I think that overall, like, I made a lot of progress on other stuff. Well, even on that, maybe even. This is something that I really wanted to cover. In Mexico, like, the people seem incredibly motivated to help Palestine, and Mexico's like involvement is much smaller, right? Like, I think the most that Mexico can do is like try to send aid through a blockade, which would spark an international incident. Strongly condemn, which could also result in tensions with the United States, maybe even the rest of the West, like Europe. It's incredibly, it's such a bad moment. And we're at, like, we're gonna look back and like World War III is gonna have started like very, very close to around this time, because these are like alliances that are being tested in a lot of ways, I think, and that I think that's gonna result in some kind of global conflict, unfortunately. This is something that's a little bit more cultural side. Pepe Aguilar is kind of like a cultural institution. I mean, I don't know. To my mom, to my family, he's considered like this really great singer, but my family also has really bad taste. So it's entirely possible that he's considered like a hack, right? But the point is that he, a Mexican man who was born in Mexico, went to the United States and talked about how proud he was of being a legal American citizen and how important it was to do the process legally to come over to the United States legally. And his daughters said something about being born in Los Angeles and how she was legally here and how it's not okay that people are doing it illegally. And like, Mexican people are really not happy about this. I don't know how much Americans understand, but like, Mexican people don't really think of the southern United States, like from Texas, Oklahoma, Colorado over to like California. They consider that like culturally Mexico in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, we people, Mexicans who live in this part of the world, we didn't really leave. We kind of just stuck around and didn't really change all that much. You could make arguments about different kinds of cultures. There's something called the Hispano culture, which is very fascinating. I wish I had the name of the podcast, but a friend of mine does a podcast on the Hispano culture, and she's a Hispano and she doesn't speak Spanish or whatever, but she's like a Mexican person. Like she comes from Mexican people, just like I do, but she's has no connection to the culture the way that I do, because of the pocket of Mexicans that remained in the part of New Mexico that she's from. It's very interesting, but the point is that Mexicans don't really see like California, Nevada, New Mexico, Texas. They don't totally see that as the United States. So when you're telling Mexicans that they're not allowed to go there, it's pretty crazy to them, right? Like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean we're from there? We live there, right?
De Pepe Aguilar y Ángel Aguilar, ¿ya lo vieron?
I was born in Los Angeles, and my father said something yesterday. He said that he was so proud to be in the United States, and he was proud to be a Mexican American, a legal Mexican American. Legal Mexican American.
Y hagamos las cosas legalmente. Hagamos las cosas legalmente para que no haya ningún pinche pretexto. Hagámoslo legalmente para que seamos parte realmente de este maravilloso país que se forjó a base de leyes y seguirá siendo fuerte por eso, porque es un país que va por delante. Espérate, güey, ahorita canto.
esto es lo que pasa con muchísima gente que ya nace con papeles, que no tienen idea cómo funcionan las cosas. Pero un tipo como él, que vive de los latinos, de los hispanos, de los indocumentados que van a sus conciertos, ¿cómo no puede saber eso? ¿O está pendejo o se hace? No sé, pero...
What the young man said was that, does he not realize that it's Mexicans, legal and illegal, that go to his concerts, that buy his music, that listen to his music? It's also incredibly, right, like, I was born with papers. I'm an American citizen by birth. And you hear my opinions on this. That some people are born with a chip on their shoulder about it, and they think that they're better than other people for having legal status through naturalization, right? Or not naturalization, but through birth. And it's bullshit. It's bullshit. It's like literally what we talk about all the time in Marxism, right? Is that your entire like economic future is more or less determined by where you are born and to who you are born to. So her, of course, as a rich man born to a rich father, as a rich woman born to a rich father, of course you guys are able to be born at the nation you wish, and of course you're able to get dual citizenship because you're famous, you're rich, you can do those things. Not everybody's famous and rich and has the ability to do those things and hop through those hoops, right? And in fact, it's the people who don't have the resources to do those things who are the most motivated to come to the United States in the first place. There's calls to cancel these guys' concerts, right? They're going to be they're calling for the Aguirre's show to be taken down. They're going to be performing on Independence Day, September 15th. El Grito de Independencia, right? The cry for independence. It's like a very important thing to Mexicans. And they do not want him to be people of Jalisco, of where they would be performing, are hoping to get this guy, get these people's shows canceled. It's really good that Claudia Sheinbaum is not as petty as I am, because if this were me, I would take away their citizenship and I'd be like, okay, you're barred from entering this fucking country. If you don't respect, if you have no respect or connection or like empathy for Mexicans and our struggle, then you're out of here. You're fucking gone. It's pretty disgusting to me. I'm gonna talk a little bit about Puerto Rico because it's actually very tied to what's happening in relation to Venezuela. Which, by the way, do we really think the Trump administration can wage a two-front war in Latin America? Huh. I wonder how that would go for them. Considering that, like, their attempts in Venezuela have failed thus far, right? Puerto Ricans are not happy because the Trump administration is looking to use Puerto Rico to do some military exercises and as a home base for their operations in Venezuela. Puerto Ricans see themselves as people deserving of sovereignty and independence because they do. They absolutely do. And right now they're just they're just under the yoke of American imperialism and being exploited horribly, I might add. and are unable to develop their island in the way that they would like to. Really recommend people listen to Bad Bunny's latest album. Really recommend people listen to Bad Bunny in general and learn about his activism. And all of the activist artists from fucking Puerto Rico, man. Puerto Rico is like a land of activists, of people who fight for independence, like true freedom fighters. It's like I have immense respect for Puerto Rican people who stand up and demand that their island, you know, is independence be recognized. Like, by all rights, they should have independence. And this fucking using them for more imperialism, for more war is disgusting. It's really bad.
They didn't invent it. They also adopted it from their parents and so on. I was very lucky because you don't choose where you're gonna where you're gonna be born, who's gonna be your parents. You don't choose, not even your name. So yeah, in that sense, I was definitely continuing a legacy. But every individual is here for himself or for herself. And I was lucky enough to have such loving parents and so oriented towards Mexican culture. But I adopted it because I believe in it, you know, more than being an inheritance or something like that. I believe in it, I love it. That's why
I don't think Mexican people buy this. He's a pretty despised person. I don't really know if it's like his father was the talented one. Seems to be the case a lot in Mexico, by the way. But he does not behave in such a way that you know, reinforces any kind or like gives any confidence that he actually believes in what he says. He doesn't act like he believes what he says, at the very least, is kind of what I'm getting at. It's really crazy to me that he says that after saying what else he said. Just really not. Just not a very thoughtful person, I guess, huh? They're still yapping about this?
Wasn't COVID, but it was somewhere down the line. They didn't count those deaths. Those were largely in states where you're still seeing a lot of anti-vaccine sentiment right now. So unfortunately, I think Senator Warner brought out something that I think should rub at the heart of every American. I can tell you as a doctor, during COVID, that just strikes at my heart because we saw those deaths. So to have the person who represents healthcare for the country, if not the world in many ways, that hurts, Hallie, it does.
Let me ask you about this sort of patchwork that seems to be beginning to develop because of what you and I have talked about before and what we have talked about on the show, some of the turmoil inside the CDC. We have seen hundreds of folks around the agency suggest that they don't want Secretary Kennedy in charge. We saw several top CDC officials resign in protest. You've now got what we're putting on the screen. Florida, just within the last 24 hours, we told you last night, saying they will ban all vaccine mandates, meaning you don't have to get a vaccine to go to school. But then you've got Pacific Northwest states, including California, as well as Oregon and Washington state, saying that they're going to kind of do their own thing. They're going to issue their own guidance outside of this sort of CDC structure here. What does it mean if you end up with a patchwork of policies like
it's terrible. Add on top of that, medical organizations, rightfully so, like the American Academy of Pediatrics, put out their own guidelines that differ from HHS. So it gets even more complicated. The sad truth is that we're going to see more cases of not just COVID, but respiratory viruses, preventable diseases. The ER is overwhelmed. And it's a sad state that we can't depend on the very thing. It's like you and I taking electricity for granted. That's what's happened when the CDC kind of gets pulled out. These states are trying to fill in the void, but a state like Florida saying that you don't need any vaccines undermines the health of everyone, not just the people that he thinks that he's trying to liberate. And by no means is this liberation. This is actually creating a problem for health. Higher death rates, higher mortality, higher morbidity.
Dr. Kavita Patel, obviously the governor of Florida disagrees in that state as well. We appreciate you being on with us. Thank you. We're keeping a close eye now, speaking of the Pacific Northwest, on the Pacific coast, and further out to Hawaii as well. With Hurricane Kiko exploding in intensity in the last 24 hours, it's now a powerful Category 4 storm. It's going to get stronger and stronger. It's going to bring a lot of rain, flooding, wind, dangerous surf to Hawaii sometime next week. And it's pretty rare that that happens. The last one to hit Hawaii was back in 1992. Hurricane Iniki, considered the most catastrophic hurricane in the history of that state, causing some $7 billion in damage in today's dollars. Bill Cairns is joining us now. This is all about, is Hawaii going to get slammed by a monster storm next week? It's too early to say for now, right?
Yeah, we're still about 6 days away from when we'd likely get the closest impact, but it's hard for a hurricane to hit Hawaii, Hallie. I mean, Hawaii, the big island, is only 75 miles wide. Oahu is only 25 miles wide, so it has to be almost like a perfect hit in the middle of a huge ocean to get direct impact. So you can see how huge the storm is. This is the most powerful storm right now on our planet, and right now the Category 430 mile per hour winds. You can see that well-defined pin of an eye. The good news for Hawaii is by the time it gets there, it's going to be significantly weaker. It's at its peak intensity now. Then over the weekend, it slowly, ever so slowly, begins to weaken down to a Category 3 Monday morning. And then it's not, the upper level winds are not going to be favorable. It's going to kind of tear it apart a little bit. Plus, it's going over cooler water. So by the time we get to Tuesday morning, when it's, Big Island of Hawaii is in that cone of uncertainty, it's only supposed to be a tropical storm. Now, obviously, a tropical storm, you still can get some power outages. Hawaii has very tall mountains, volcanoes, up to 16,000 feet. So rainfall is a huge problem, even with a tropical storm. So right now, that would be the biggest concern. Our major computer
it's called
models
Social
all are pretty much
Democracy
in the
with
vicinity of the Hawaiian Islands. So it looks like some impact is going to be likely. A direct hit or not, we still have to wait and see. Here's all of our ensemble computer lines, and you can see.
Okay, we're gonna look at this interview.
Populist characteristics. Great to see you, Juan.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
So there are many things we could discuss with you, but today we have you joining us to help us understand what the hell we are doing vis-a-vis Venezuela. We can put this image up on the screen, this video that was released by the Trump administration after, what you can see here is this relatively small boat out there in the water, and either via a drone strike or an attack helicopter, we come in and blow this thing out of the water. Now, the Trump administration claims this was 11 Tren de Aragua drug smugglers. Have they released any evidence of that? No, they have not. So, Juan, let me just first get your reaction to this development, the illegality of it, and why we should be very skeptical of some of the claims here that are being made by the Trump administration.
Yeah, I mean, I like to, give people the benefit of the doubt. I tried to be as charitable as possible before with the CICOD deportations to El Salvador, and I'm pretty hawkish on immigration. But, I mean, what we've seen time and time again with this government is that their credibility is zero. And, I mean, it's sad because there are a lot of, professionals in, the DEA, and, Rubio claimed that the DEA was involved in this. I strongly doubt that. I mean, I don't think that the DEA would sponsor, would sanction, extrajudicial killings of this kind. But, I mean, what I mean to say is that, there's people in government that, know things about Tren de Aragua, and a lot of the people that we've been told in the government, have, verified Tren de Aragua members, they've said that, it's because they have tattoos, of autism awareness. We shipped people to El Salvador that had, an autism awareness tattoo. And Tren de Aragua, they're not the Bloods and the Crips, they're not MS-13. There are gangs that use tattoos as, markers of affiliation. That's not the case with Tren de Aragua. Similarly, they have been known to deal drugs at small scales on the street level in Venezuela, but across international borders, it's not really their thing. So honestly, I think it's possible that these were drug runners of some kind, maybe, to be charitable. But what I can say for sure is that it's extremely unlikely that it was Tren de Aragua. And the reason they probably are saying that is because they designated it, a foreign terrorist organization, and so they claim in the legality.
So that
of
they can claim that
because it was designated a foreign terrorist organization.
Okay, all right, okay, fucking assholes. I see.
They were Al Qaeda in Afghanistan.
Well, I mean, they may claim that
war on
authority.
terror.
Yeah, they may claim that authority. They don't really have that authority. I mean, I understand the war on terror designation has been that authorization of the use of military force.
Crystal has such poignant, lucid points to make all the time.
Has
I just
already
have to say
been
that.
stretched
Like,
beyond
whatever else you
recognition.
think of her,
but to then
she does
use
a
it
good job of
against
saying the
a
right thing
cartel,
in the right moment.
Is
Like, right.
another.
This
You know,
is good
extraordinary.
journalism,
We'll call
by
it a
the way.
legal leap. I think is the most fair thing that you can ever.
Like, it's really fucked up when Crystal Ball is probably one of the last examples of a real journalist. Fucking Taylor Lorenz. Like, these are like the last examples of like real journalists who are like gonna go and investigate. Gonna go, and when they do an interview, they're not just gonna let the person get away with whatever. They're gonna like be tough on them. They're gonna question them on things they don't want to be questioned about. They're gonna push them when they lie. Like, that's a good journalist, and you don't get that very often. And it's very strange to me that it's fucking Crystal Ball and Taylor Lorenz that are doing it.
That you could say.
I don't know why.
And
I
by
think
the
it's
way,
strange. I don't know them very
in
well. They
Let
just
Something
never
Has Changed
seemed
one,
that
I have not
ambitious
actually
or
even
something. I
seen
don't
the
know.
administration
It's
use that
misogyny.
justification.
Is it just misogyny?
The
Am I
reporting
just
I saw is they're
misogynist?
still trying to figure out how they're going to claim that this was remotely justified.
Yeah, and you know, like Rubio has changed his story. He said first that the boat was going to Trinidad, which is more plausible. I mean, that also seems kind of unlikely because if you know anything about like geography, Trinidad's right off the coast of Venezuela, and I doubt that you know the ships that we have in the Caribbean were like right between Trinidad and Venezuela. Then he changed his story because Trump said that the boat was going to the U.S., which really, I mean, you're going to tell me that that thing was going to go all the way to the U.S. Very unlikely too.
Such an insane situation. I'm not really too pleased with the reaction to all of this. I'm also unfortunately not going to be able to last long enough as I wanted to in this stream because I ran out of content very quickly. I'm gonna go ahead and just go ahead and get off, but I will work on figuring out how to extend my content. Today was kind of like the first attempt, and it was kind of like not the greatest attempt, if I'm being honest. So I'm going to just try to be better tomorrow. Maybe find like tomorrow's Friday. It'd be really nice if I could find a video game that I could play on stream. So I'm gonna try to look into that as well. Okay, if you came by and watched this stream or watched it as a video on YouTube, I really appreciate it. I hope that I was able to provide.
Yeah, there's a lot of
a little bit of perspective from Latin America and what the people there are thinking and wanting and what they think about the United States' actions on the international stage. I hope that this continues or becomes your home for Latin American news in English. We're going to keep focusing on that. And it looks like we're going to have a lot of content to talk about when it comes to Mexico, Venezuela, and Puerto Rico in the next coming weeks. Thank you.